redefined the same VUCA by vision, understanding, compassion, and agility, right? And if you were to redefine, the same terminology, you can really turn every crisis into an opportunity. I found it really intriguing when I saw Surf Excel pivoting from दाग अच्छे हैं तो दाग घर पे रहेंगे.
I welcome to all of you to another brand new episode of Icons Behind Brands video interview series Back to Basics in the Time of Uncertainty, where we are going to have a conversation with some of the leading minds in business. And today I am super excited to have our esteemed guest Saurabh Bajaj, who is the head of marketing in Britannia Dairy Product, an innovative marketer and a trendsetter, an alumnus of IIM Indore. With 16 years of industry experience, he has worked in various companies like Mondelez, Diageo, and now in Britannia. Let's hear it from Saurabh. Warm welcome to you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Devlina. Absolutely great to be a part of the show.
Pleasure is all ours, Saurabh. So let's have a look on what you have to share. So, what is the impact of COVID-19 situation in the industry as a whole? And how do you foresee the situation in next 6 months down the line?
So I think it is definitely extremely tough times, right? And no two ways about it. I think it's a tough time personally, professionally for a lot of people out there, right? The only sort of silver lining is when I was doing my research as to how has the industry really faced with this entire pandemic, right? I was quite intrigued to see that last year in March, April, as we got into the pandemic, right, there was an expectation of a 40% degrowth in GDP. That was the initial forecast that was there, right? Once they re-looked at the figure 3 months later, they realized that there had been a degrowth in April, but it was to the tune of around 24%. Yeah. Now, after the first month in which there was such a shocker, right, the economy started recovering fairly quickly, and the eventual impact of the pandemic in the first quarter, that is last year between April, May, June, right, was actually in single digits. It was negative, but it was single digits. It was nothing in the lines of, the disaster that was actually forecasted, right? And through the year, actually quarter by quarter, we actually saw a lot of recovery, right? And I think it was far worse shock economically than what we had actually assumed it to. So that was really, in a sense, the good news, right? But I think a lot of categories behave differently, So undoubtedly, the travel and hospitality segment, bore the brunt of it, right? Because you were not really doing any tourism or travel during this time, right? So they, of course, have had to pivot in various ways. It's been very difficult for them, right? The entertainment and retail sector was the sector which was impacted next because we didn't go out there to see movies in our cinema halls, right? And again, you saw a degree of pivoting where you had retail giants trying to have pop-up stores inside society, right? Now, the FMCG as a whole, I would say broadly was to some degree cushioned because it is a very back to basics industry. It's an industry that I and you need for our everyday living. Yeah. In fact, the food category actually benefited last year because you had all the restaurant and entertainment areas shut down, right? And the total quantum of food that we need to consume does not really shift. So you actually had a lot of business moving from restaurant food towards packaged food categories. Yeah. And in fact, last year in Q1, that is in your April, May, June, there's also this phenomenon of overstocking, right? Because people did not know how to really behave. How will this impact? Will we have our groceries available to us or not? And hence, there was a lot of fringe categories like UHT milk that people tried for the first time. Dairy whitener was actually being used. Certain new age food categories like Kellogg's saw a lot of benefit during that time because people were like, I cannot. How much can I cook finally, right? You had your Swiggies and Zomatos getting hit, and then you had new services like Foodie Buddy coming out. So you had a lot of shift overall. For certain categories like hygiene and for better food habits, this is actually a a time which was actually better for them, right? But for a lot of sectors, it was actually a fairly difficult time. Yeah. I think somewhere around November, we all felt that a lot of these things are going to get back to normal. Unfortunately, the second wave has hit us. And this year is looking a bit tough, because while we don't see the large shakeups that we saw last year, I think people are a little more prepared. But it is definitely depressing the regular buoyancy that you will have in any category, because people are not going out, they're not getting a chance to really take the benefits of entertainment or leisure, and hence discretionary spending is definitely low. So I would say that it's a tough year, but luckily for us, which are in a developing economy, where our regular per capita incomes or per capita consumption of various products itself is so low that it does not does not take much to get some of these things to start becoming buoyant very quickly. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that as the vaccination drive picks up, and as these lockdowns have kicked in, as they start controlling the number of cases, maybe as early as September, October, things should start looking up again. Let's hopefully.
Yeah, looking at the scenario, again, we can be hopeful because, there is something to, hope as the vaccination drive has already started now. There is a huge cultural and behavioral change which is happening in people's mind and in their lifestyle too. So how these outside forces and trends are impacting the consumers in the industries as a whole, and what are the emerging trends for marketeers right now? I mean, in the digital and in offline space.
Good question, Devlina. Now, see, for any marketeer, the most important thing is to really understand how people are feeling and how they are doing, right? If you are able to get the pulse of these two areas, it is possible to build a marketing strategy, right? So the marketing strategy is finally about communication, it's about activation, it's about innovation, right? And all of these three components, they really pan out in the lines of, how do you really respond to the consumer, right? Now, in terms of communication, I think what I saw last year, right, is that as we go through various phases of the pandemic, right, there are different passion points that become relevant. So, when you have the early phases of the pandemic that we saw somewhere in March, April last year, and again March, April this year, when there is a fresh shutdown, right, there is an immediate state of confusion. People are really wondering what's really going on. And companies that play reassuring messages, which tell them to focus on the basics, they tell them that, basically it's about home hygiene. I think these are those communication passion points that become relevant, right? As we get into the pandemic and people start getting a little comfortable with it, which we saw somewhere around July, August last year, and again probably should pan out in the next couple of months, right? When people realize that, we cannot go out in a hurry, but I need to make the most out of this time, right? So there, when companies talk about spending time with their families, or talking about new cooking shows, so that because in-home dining has to make up for the lack of entertainment outside, suddenly those communication passion points become relevant. Yeah. And then as we get out of a pandemic, when there's a sense of relief, like when you have the new normal, which was sort of setting in November, December last year, and hopefully that should only be quicker this year. So unless something like that happens, right, you will have people again wanting to get some revenge shopping back, some discretionary purchases going, tending to wanting to really celebrate some small moments again, and then again it will be the time for optimism, right? Again, brands which are able to be cautiously optimistic. I think those are some of the communication passion points which sort of move on, right? So I would say from a consumer trend standpoint, there is one role for communication, which I just talked about. The other role is for innovation. Now, in innovation, I think it's very important for marketers to be very careful, because innovation is a tool that can make companies and it can also break companies. Because if you go out there and do all kind of unreasonable innovations, you will not have the money to support your core, you will not have the money to support your innovations, and you could land into a tough situation, right? But in such a scenario, I would say, I have full compliments for companies like, Reckitt Benckiser, Lifebuoy, which took their existing product lines like hand sanitizers and personal hygiene, and they were able to ramp up production to really satisfy the needs of the consumer, right? So that, I would say, was a good job done. You also had a lot of companies launching a slew of new products, which I'm not very, excited about, where you had, immunity as a buzzword, and you had, juices which promised immunity, or you had something else, right? I think those are flash in the pan. I don't see them, really making much of a wave. It felt like a PR gimmick, right? Companies like Dabur from Dabur Honey and Chyawanprash, I think they surely benefited because they had a product which was relevant before the pandemic. It became even more relevant during the pandemic, right? And hence there was a role for initial communication or really figuring out further product recipe modifications to sort of satisfy consumer needs further, right? And the last thing that I talked about was activation, right? Now, when it comes to activation, I think it's very important for companies to realize one thing. The only way to damage yourself during a pandemic is to stop communicating. I think the companies which didn't do well through the last year and probably this year is those who hunkered down and said, "Gosh, I don't know what's going on. Let me stop my investments." I think that's a recipe for disaster because what the consumer wants is to interact with you. So your activation means might change. Instead of making big budget IPL campaigns or big budget Bollywood releases, you might start focusing on digital. You might start focusing on OTT. You might have a lot of Bollywood celebrities wanting to be Instagram influencers now, right? So hence, what changes is not whether I should activate or not, but rather how should I activate? What is the most relevant way of doing it? How can I be sensitive, empathetic during this time?
One of the most important part of marketing is brand messaging. How to ensure that the messaging is going right to the audience and what one should keep in mind so that it resonates well to the target audience of today's time.
Devleena, one of the examples that I was quite enthused to see last year, right, and this happened somewhere around June, July, is when you saw Surf Excel pivoting, right? Now, Surf Excel has had a very promising proposition of Daag Achhe Hain for the longest time, yeah. Now, but Daag Achhe Hain really talks about you're a mother, an empowering mother, telling its kid to go out there and live life to the fullest, and if that means you dirty yourself, that's fine. But during the time of the pandemic, you're not gonna see those kids rolling in money. Yeah, and that's the time where your message can look very, very odd to the consumer. Where the consumer will be sort of laughing at you, saying that, are you serious, right? And at that point in time, so I found it really intriguing when I saw Surf Excel pivoting from Daag Achhe Hain to Daag Ghar Pe Rahenge, and they used Hotstar OTT very well. They used the smart TV phenomenon, and they made these ads which were really picture cutouts or really sort of moving images, right? And they really talked about the fact that now that your kids are at home, they're gonna mess up your walls, but don't worry, we are still there for you. So that I felt was a very sensitive and a very interesting way of sort of pivoting. The other part about brand communication that I'm seeing really now rising is moment marketing. Okay, now see, in the US, the largest advertising spending that has happened, over many decades, has really been on the Super Bowl. One time when all of US sits together and wait for the playoffs. Now India never had that. Even though we had our IPLs and our cricket shows, but we were always in some shape or form, distracted by various regional considerations. Even a simple festival like a Pongal is known as a Baisakhi and known as something else in a very, very different part of the country. But really, it is the pandemic that has driven a certain synergy of behavior. Where all of us are seeing the same things at the same time, worrying about the same topics at the same time. We are all facing a lot of similarities of what we are engaging with, right? And this allows a lot of guerrilla marketing opportunities. It allows a lot of moment marketing opportunities. And hence, I would say one of the things that a lot of brands and companies and agencies are trying to build their muscles on is to say, what is the next stage of digital evolution? So far, when we heard of digital, we had to solve for YouTube and Facebook. But really, there is a new animal in the room right now called moment marketing, where I'm supposed to respond within 24 hours. Hey, I did not even get my brief out in 24 hours, right? And now I'm supposed to get a brief, approve it, get my various rounds of thinking going, and it allows marketers and agencies to be far more agile, right? So I would say that's a new trend which is really emerging, yeah. And the third thing which I find really interesting, which is changing, is really the shift in the shopper journey. A lot of the shopper journey so far used to be awareness and television. I would go to the shop, I would find a product, I would pick it up, right? But now with D2C really rising and your big baskets of the world really starting to get some semblance of scale, right? I think the mapping of the consumer journey on how you now purchase your products, where is the role of D2C within that? I think is a question that a lot of mainline marketers are thinking about. And today, if you were to go onto a LinkedIn or a YouTube, you will find a plethora of D2C playbooks for mainline companies right now out there. And I think that's the need of the hour. I think a lot of companies today are investing in the digital ecosystem. are trying to understand how do you map the change consumer journey, and what is the kind of advertising and marketing which is relevant for a consumer which is going to be buying his products digital.
So, being agile and on our toe and looking at the trends is something which marketers should be always, keep an eye, right? So it looks very interesting. Like I am also quite active in social media. So the moment this Friends TV series came, before that we knew that okay, this is a part of our work. Let's watch it for our work, because the moment marketing has to be in our toes, right? So I could completely relate on that, what you just said.
I started watching the Friends reunion yesterday. It is so nice, right, to see those delightful characters coming back. So sweet.
Right, and more than watching now, all the friends, peers, and communities that has become active. We are doing Zoom reunion with the walking groups, with the running groups, and previous groups. What about our reunion? I mean, we are watching.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a very good inspiration. I'm going to reach out to some of my friend groups as well. And
yes. So I have initiated 2-3 such reunions. Yesterday, 45 minutes we sat for one of the business groups. So we were like, what about our reunion? We have not met since last year. Then I have another group which is I go for run and walk. So that is again another walking group. So we are settled in different parts of Bangalore. So it's been 1 year we have not met. So again, that was a reunion. So that's how it's going right now.
Nice.
We have spoken about the impact on the situation in the market right now, and you also threw some light on the impacted segments, right? So I want you to talk a little more about like what are the major impacted sectors in today's time, and how are they pivoting businesses?
That's a very good question, Devleen. And in fact, this is something which I've been interested in, sort of watching and sort of observing, right? So, when it comes to our, our nation, and not just the nation, probably the world, right? The two largest sources of government revenue are alcohol and tourism, right? And really, tourism makes a lot of our budget stick, right? So, I think the one sector which has got impacted the most is really the tourism sector, right? And it's a sector which is very dear to all of us, right? What's life without that vacation? And some of the things that I noticed last year, right, and it is only now I think going to increase in trend this year, is this concept of staycations, right? Where people are saying that instead of a regular vacation, maybe I can cut the travel time, maybe just go to the outskirts of Bangalore. I myself did that somewhere around January, where they said that let's go and stay in a a good 5-star or any good resort, right, which is very sort of close to home, which is keeping in all of their precautions, right? And since I'm not really going to be doing much, right, I mean, I just will be able to use those facilities. Maybe it will be a longer staycation, might be maybe 15 days, could even be a month, and I could even continue working there. And a lot of these 5-stars have promised work from home packages, right, where they said that you come in here, you take on this deal, stay with us for say 15 days, 20 days, for maybe a month, and you can do your Zoom calls, you can get 5-star meals with a highest degree of security, right? So that I saw was one of the largest changes, and a lot of the people that I know have in some shape or form used this, right? So see, we were all hoping last year that maybe within a year or so international vacations will start, right? Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. Because even especially the second wave, and God knows if there'll be a third, fourth, and fifth wave. I don't know when the international vacation will start, right? But it gave a shot in the arm of domestic tourism in December, Jan, Feb. So December, Jan, Feb, you had a lot of packages being announced for Goa. A lot of states were getting at Pondicherry about how you can really get a nice vacation in some place which feels safe. Yeah. In fact, this summer was expected, it was forecasted to be a record-breaking summer from the point of view of domestic tourism. Unfortunately, the second wave has put dampener on all those. And in fact, somewhere around December, Jan, when the waves seemed to be out, you suddenly had, markets like Mauritius, Dubai, offering Bollywood stars, a sort of a free vacation which they can put on their Instagram handles to sort of give people the courage to come back, right? But really, tourism is going to be about safety protocols, and I would say the major change that will take place in the future, right, is going to be on the lines of health and hygiene, right? Because I don't think the after effects of the pandemic are going away very quickly, right? And tourism is very, very important. It keeps the economy ticking, right? So that's really one sector in which I saw a lot of pivoting, a lot of work is going on there, and I think there is a lot of thinking still going on. So what does the future model look like? Yeah. The second market that I talked about was alcohol, right? Now, alcohol as a category for the longest period of time has talked about home delivery. Because home delivery is not allowed. Home delivery is allowed for restaurant food, was allowed for a lot of other such products. And if you ask me, having worked in Diageo for a couple of years, I don't understand why should home delivery for alcohol not be allowed. Because the reason why you control alcohol is because of the antisocial elements or the fact that it could fuel something which is unlawful, right? But if somebody is going to be sitting at home and wanting to enjoy his drink, it's unlikely that he has got any malicious intent in mind. And for me, this in-home delivery of alcohol is a no-brainer, and it is something that should become mainstream sooner rather than later. And I think it will take some time, but I would say that it should be a matter of time. Now, the third sector which got impacted quite massively was really the gyms. And it's a very weird situation for them because last 3 or 4 years you've seen such a large growth across the world about healthy living habits. New age entrepreneurships like Cult Fit, Gold Gyms have actually been the largest. They've been the darlings of the stock market, right? And when you had gyms getting impacted because people can't go out of home, and finally, if you go to a gym, you're gonna break a sweat. Yeah, and that makes it unsafe for the next person, right? But I saw a lot of very, very innovative pivoting by, say, even Cult Fit, which led the charge by getting in celebrity into the action, saying that you can now have a fitness camp with Hrithik Roshan probably leading it through the screen of your laptop, right? And hence really embracing the digital fitness model and providing value adds like live classes with celebrities or their top coaches. I think is something that the fitness industry is trying to do really well. The fourth market which got impacted was really the Shadi market, because the Shadi market is just a very, very large market in our country, right? It's when people save up for decades and really they spend it all then, right? But even before we come to Shadi, how are you going to enable Shadis to happen in a country which is still so heavily dependent on arranged marriage? And that's when you had Shadi.com saying that what Zoom call can be turned into a Shadi meet, right? And they blasted it across the airwaves, and this entire Shadi meet as a phenomenon got so much attraction on TV media, which I found personally very interesting, right? So that was again a large pivoting from another large category. And finally, the fifth category that I want to talk about is really your retail category. Because things like your Nikes, Pantaloons, lifestyles, they rely on that shopper experience of walking through those halls, touch and feel with the clothes. And we hate buying clothes online. Yeah, those is taking off and they have no option. But really, there is nothing quite like trying on that pair of jeans, trying to try those 3 different colors before you finally make that call, right? And really embracing these pop-up stores is something that I am seeing the retail sector doing quite well. And today, I'm sure everybody from a Levi's to a Nike to a retail to a Pantaloon or a lifestyle has got some plan or the other to have pop-up stores inside societies of companies so that they can allow people to do the touch experience, but in the safety of the society rather than try to take them to.
Awesome, great insights on these segments, Saurav, and it's so interesting to see how fast brands are reacting and they're pivoting to a new business model at this particular point of time. This is the right response to the situation. Looking at the scenario, what is your suggestion? Brands should increase, decrease, or they should stop the media spend?
It's a very good question, Devalina, and I think this is truly where a forward-looking mindset and agility comes. Because the moment we are faced with any kind of a shock, whether it is a consumer shock or a price and inflation shock, where you have prices of raw materials really going up and down, right? I think at that point in time, in my own personal experience, those brands which actually hold on to their plans and they pivot the minimum, who do not aggressively drop or increase their spending, I think those are the ones which really get the benefit, right? Now, I was personally really intrigued to see a number of brands last year investing very heavily on Mahabharata and Ramayana. Now, it needs a very different degree of intelligence to do that. You're going to have so much of captive audience with absolutely nothing to do. Fully engage onto a series and taking the punt to take that call is a brilliant thought, right? But if you ask a conventional marketer it'll be a struggle to navigate that decision, because they will start by saying that, oh, the programming is not fresh, will I have consumers that are engaged? There is inflation, there is deflation, so what do I do about my prices? The consumer is not going out, so can I really impact the consumer journey? Now, all of these concerns will come in the way of investing, and when you are confused, or when you are you're not very clear about the future, the flip reaction to do is to stop investing, right? And I would say that the highest correlation of share and investments, right, which has always been there, has only gotten enhanced during this time, because in the past you at least had distribution, at least you had presence on shelf to provide education. Today, the only way of providing education is TV media, is your digital activation. So I would say, for any marketer out there, worth its salt, the default mode is to say, can I hold on to my regular fees? Can I hold on to my consumer engagement? Can I hold on to base GRPs? I may not want to do very disruptive innovation during this time. So I may not want to take on a very, very high risk deal with an IPL, or a big boss, or very high exposure to something that I've previously not done. But holding on to your base GRPs, holding on to your base advertising budgets, holding on to your base engagement budgets, I would say that is something that marketers should lead the charge and hold on to those, because eventually as we come out of the pandemic, right, the highest correlation that we are again going to see is going to be between investment and market share.
What do you foresee in terms of new opportunities in the market right now?
See, one of the things that I really am passionate about, right, is when you want to decode opportunities, how do we try to focus on the difference between fads and trends? And fads are left by stuff which is a buzzword. So if everybody is talking about immunity, it becomes a buzzword, and then it's largely likely to be a fad, right? But a learned behavior, something that the consumer was not doing and he's learning to do. Now that's a trend, right? And trends need investment. So today, the digital education that we are seeing, it's a trend. It's going to lift. It's going to stay, because once you get used to doing things in a particular manner, it's going to stay there, right? Similarly, the whole rise of e-commerce, the whole rise of the shopper journey, which is linked through the online buying and selling, now that's a learned behavior. It can get tempered up and down, but I don't think we will ever go back to our traditional way of doing it, right? Similarly, online payments, digital wallets, the UPI. Now that's a learned behavior. It's gonna stay, right? From a slightly smaller trends, but trends like slightly healthier eating, having your cornflakes and your salsa, hummus, dips, shortcuts towards making better cuisine, right? Small trends, but they're likely to stay, because once a consumer gets used to the fact that hey, I can make better quality food at home. But these are again learned behavior. When a consumer realizes that, boy, I can make excellent meat or food at home by just cooking it at a very affordable rate. Now that's learned behavior. So wherever you see the consumer learning something, that's going to lead to new opportunities which require investment, require pivoting, require thinking, and require activation and innovation. Sort of be prepared for that. So these are some of the things that I feel are learned behavior, and they require manufacturers and marketeers to start thinking from to the future, to say that what does the next structure look like? Where will my investment eventually move? What are the new media mix likely to emerge? What are the new consumer behaviors and attitudes which are going to be driven by this learned behavior, which is likely to persist? And once you realize that this is not a fad, it is likely to be a trend, you might as well put your money behind where your mouth is and start investing.
So that learned behavior, we all have learned a lot of new things, a lot of interesting things we are doing in the family, friends. And earlier we used to do employee engagement programs, and now we are doing family engagement programs like cooking, playing together, and all these things, right? What is the most interesting thing you have done in past 12 to 15 months out of your work?
Outside of my work, and I'm so lucky that it panned out the way it did. I never realized that it'll be a hobby which will get so much of scale. But one of the things I was always passionate about was writing. And I could never sort of push myself to really write in an organized manner. Right? I was a very heavy reader. I would read almost a book every couple of weeks because of all my travel, sitting on flights and all of it. Right? Unfortunately, my reading has totally taken a hit because I'm not doing the travel anymore. And when you're not traveling, it is very difficult to sit down with a book. Right? But that time I have actually pushed into writing, and I wrote my first post on LinkedIn somewhere around March last year. And I just promised myself saying that let me just write one post a week every Saturday, and I was like, how tough can that be, right? And that sort of hobby has taken a life of its own. This Saturday I've written my 60th post, right? And I've had a fair success in these posts. I think my highest views in a post has been almost 100,000 views plus, and an average post gets me around 25-30,000 views. I've written around 31 articles also during this time, and I've done around 30 odd webinars, 15-20 podcasts. So I think it's been a very interesting journey for me, where I've really honed my writing and public speaking skills. So this is something which is grown to more than just an occasional hobby, into something that I probably now proactively invest my time.
Wow, that's pretty inspiring, Saurabh, because I have been following you in LinkedIn from quite some time, and I see your posts. Before, I used to see your posts when somebody else used to like, so then I started following, and that's how it's so insightful. And I didn't know you have started last year on March. I do a very small write-ups, like micro-blogging kind of, but not very regular in LinkedIn. I'm an Instagram person, so I'm also switching to LinkedIn and trying my hand. So this is going to be a fuel in my mind, going forward. Yeah.
Right. So I think I realized that the only secret was consistency. No matter what you do, how much you do, if you can decide some consistent pattern, and where you're not measuring yourself by necessarily the engagement or the gratification versus the joy that you have of creating something, I think you can make it work.
Awesome. I think that is the core. I mean, just be real and be expressive. I mean, what you want to express, just do that and see, how the world is responding. That is a secondary part altogether, right?
Right.
Now we are moving to a very interesting section, which is rapid fire round. You have to answer in one word to my questions. One brand which you admire the most other than your own.
I would say Cadbury's for sure.
One book or podcast you would like to recommend to the marketers?
It's definitely How Brands Grow by Byron Shah.
Okay. One of your hidden talent?
Writing. I think only realized it last year.
One thing of yours that surprises people?
My mustache, I would say.
And one of your biggest professional mentor?
Probably Bhaskar Chaudhary. I don't like him very much, but definitely he's been a good mentor of mine.
You have been learning. So, something you have done which made you extremely proud of yourself?
So I think the entire professional journey that I've had, and in a particular brand that I managed called Cadbury Celebrations, I think that is the time when I had the highest joy in my life.
Awesome. So as completed the rapid fire section, so moving towards almost at the end of the section here, sir, what is your message to the marketeers, to the aspiring brand managers, to the startup owners at this particular point of time?
Thank you so much for that opportunity to share my views on this one, Devina. So again, this is an area that I'm quite passionate about. In recent times, I had a chance to, pen an article on case reads with Sundar Kandur, a very good friend of mine, right? Where we sort of redefined VUCA, and we realized that, a lot of people believe that this is a time of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, right? But what we reflected on is that you can just redefine the same VUCA by vision, understanding, compassion, and agility, right? And if you were to redefine, the same terminology, you can really turn every crisis into an opportunity, right? And what you need to do to turn a crisis into an opportunity is really to be able to take a step back and try to understand what the consumer is really thinking and doing. And as long as you are able to respond, faster in a manner which is more agile, a manner which is, compassionate, you will surely be able to, sway your business in the direction that you eventually want to do.
So it's an eye-opener kind of redefining concept, Saurabh. So instead of, understanding VUCA, now we are going ahead very optimist about VUCA, and it is giving you a lot of confidence, to look forward to the marketing opportunities right now with the redefining concept, right? So I will go back to your post and I will read about this for sure after this. Yeah. So a lot of takeaways from you, taking a step back and understand your customers well, and then move ahead with the right messaging, right decision. So very insightful. Overall it was a complete insightful power pack session with you, Saurabh. So thank you for your time. It was great having you, and I'm sure it is going to add a lot of value to the viewers as well, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, Devina. It's been a complete pleasure, and I've really enjoyed my discussion with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Saram.